And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I'm so happy to be here for hashtag Mystery Monday because Mondays can be murder, but we're going to make them a little less painful with fabulous books. Today, I am delighted to welcome Kimi Cunningham-Grant here to give us the scoop on her brand new red-hot book, These Silent Woods, out tomorrow. Kimi, welcome. Tell us about These Silent Woods.
Sara, thanks so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. These Silent Woods comes out tomorrow, as you said. I'm really excited about it. We were delayed, as you know, and so it's good to finally be at the actual launch day. These Silent Woods is about a man who's living with his 8-year-old daughter in the woods, and they're living in isolation and hiding. And we know that they need to stay hidden if they want to sustain their way of life. And so this book sort of puts them in the position where one year the guy that brings their annual supplies doesn't show up, and that sort of triggers a whole bunch of new events for Cooper and his daughter Finch, and they'll have to sort of navigate new terrain as they have to get their own supplies and change their hunting route and that type of thing.
Well, we got a lot to get into, Kimi, a lot to get into, and I can't wait to get into every bit of it. But first, I just want to welcome all of our friends who are watching. I got you up on all my different screens. So I am watching on Facebook, I'm watching on YouTube, wherever you're watching from today. Murder by the Books channels, my private Facebook group. You're in the right place, and this is the right time. So let's get into it. If you have questions for Kimi about her writing process, about this book, about any questions that you have going on in your mind, get them going in the comments. This is your time to talk to your authors, to talk to your favorite authors, meet your next favorite authors. This is your time to chat. So let's get those questions going in the comments. Leslie is saying hello from Canada. That's her signature Canadian hello. It brings me joy. Leslie, always a pleasure to have you. Welcome back. Kimi, I got a lot of questions to ask about These Silent Woods. So you are a poet. We don't host many poets on the show, although I had one horror poet, but I think you're my second poet. So what I noticed, and I don't know very much about poetry, but what I noticed as I was reading this book is that it is written in oftentimes in a poetic way, which in my uneducated mind means in short, very efficient word play. Like you get it a point across in an efficient few words as possible. Tell us about what that was. What do you, that's what my experience was like as a reader, as a writer, as a poetess, and as an author, as a thriller writer. What was that like for you? How did you weave these two very different mediums together?
Yeah. I have written poems and published poems. I don't write them as much, but I think and hope it still sort of seeps into my writing. I wanted Cooper, the book is told from his point of view, and I wanted him to write in a way that I wanted his story to be written in a way that felt lyrical. I wanted him to experience the woods, the natural world, in a sort of beautiful but also distinct way, because he's not a highly educated person. He's not necessarily a guy that's going to use a lot of words or a lot of big words. And so I wanted him to just describe the world as he saw it in his short but sort of poetic way. Yeah.
I love that. So Cooper is a veteran. He did 3 tours of duty. And now he is that same desire to survive, that same desire to protect is now extended to his daughter, Grace Elizabeth, AKA Finch. They're hiding. We don't know why at first. We don't know what they're hiding from. We don't know why they're hiding. We just know there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress around keeping himself and his daughter hidden. Let's talk about how, from a craft perspective, you amped up that tension to get us sweating as we're turning the pages. How did you do that specifically?
Well, I wanted the tension. I mean, hopefully the tension in this type of book is going to start really early, like from page one. And so I hope that that happens in this book, that from the minute you open that very first scene, you know, you see Cooper waking up in a moment of stress because there's something outside. And then slowly we learn more and more about what is it that he's hiding from, and why is it so important that he cannot be found, and that he and Finch need to stay completely off the grid, off the radar of the authorities. And so I wanted, at the same time, I did want there to be this story of a father and a daughter, and this intense love that he has for his little girl. And so it was sort of a dance between, you know, wanting to develop that character and that relationship, but also amping up the tension. So it was a sort of a blend of both, hopefully.
Interesting. I noticed you dedicated the book to your dad. In a lot
Yes.
of ways, this book is a love song, an ode to good fathers, loving fathers, protective fathers everywhere. In the relationship between Finch and Cooper, we see a lot of mother-daughter relationships on the page. We don't see as many father-daughters. Why do you think that is, and what was important to you to write this for your dad?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was just starting to think about this, and I knew that I wanted to have a parent and child in the woods. And, you know, without giving any spoilers, some of the decisions that Cooper eventually has to make. I thought, well, I would love to write it from a mother's perspective. I'm a mother, and I thought that could be really cool. But I realized that he would, a dad, I thought, would navigate those decisions differently. And I knew the decisions I wanted him to have to wrestle with. And it didn't feel like the right fit to have a mom making those. I think moms sometimes are, at least if this were me, I felt like the decisions would have been a little bit easier. You know, I would have been like, this is, you know, absolutely, I have to do this. I cannot do that. And so I
Mm.
liked the layer of complication that a dad would maybe have different feelings about, you know, parenthood. Like maybe he would care. And again, I've never been a dad, but I'm just guessing. Maybe he would care more about like what his daughter would think of him, as opposed to just keeping her safe. Whereas for me as a mom, I would be like, I don't care what you think of me. Like, I'm going to keep you safe, you know? So it was just a little simpler in that sort of sense. And so when it came to dedicating the book, it made sense for me to dedicate it to my dad. And he is also a veteran. So rendering that experience was really important to me. I wanted it to feel as authentic as it could be. And I wanted to give that voice of, you know, the struggle to come home to him.
I love that. Yeah, because we see Cooper wrestling with maybe some PTSD, some
Yeah,
hyper vigilance, some hyper
sure.
alertness, that from 3 tours of duty, from living under extraordinary stress, and now also living under current stress, and how that has both given him tools and also a burden in terms of managing that. My sister is in the Army currently, so it's I think we need to see more active duty people and veterans on the page. So thank you for that. Sharon is saying hi from Minnesota. Hey, Sharon, great to have you here today.
Karen.
Welcome. Always a joy to have you. Top community member there. Welcome back. Now, in my Facebook group, I let people submit questions in advance. So let's get to some of those. George from Texas would like to know, what books did you read that inspired you to become a writer yourself? Great question, George. Kimi, over to you.
I was definitely the kid that was reading with a flashlight in my bed when my parents thought I was sleeping when I was a kid. Not surprisingly, I was always reading. I think when I really started to get into reading and thinking about maybe I would want to become a writer, I was reading a lot of Susan Cooper, who wrote the Dark is Rising trilogy, and so I think as a kid that was a big impactful book for me. And I read The Witch of Blackbird Pond, which was also a really good book for me. So it was sort of around that 5th grade, I think, that I started, you know, like thinking maybe I wanted to write books too. So those are things I remember reading around age 11 or 10.
What about books or authors that inspire you now, Kimi?
Yeah. So I studied English in college and graduate school, and so I read lots of classics, and I sort of some of them I loved, and of course were an influence, and some I didn't love, but I had to read. So now I sort of have a rule that I only read books that I really love, and so if I read 50 pages or so and I'm not completely immersed, then I don't finish. So some of my favorite contemporary authors that I really love and respect, I love Anthony Doerr and Leif Enger, Marilyn Robinson, and I love Peter Heller, and really love and respect Emily St. John Mandel, Wiley Cash. Those are all people I always love to read. So.
And didn't Wiley just host you here
He
at
did,
Murder by
yes,
the Book?
yes, was Murder by the Book. That was fun.
Yay! It must have been quite an honor to have one of your heroes host
Sure.
your book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that day we had so much trouble. I had trouble getting my like internet set up and everything, and so it was super stressful because the clock was ticking down to runtime. But we got through it. We got through it. It was great. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that would be very stressful indeed. Kimi, let's talk about some of the incredible praise that your book has earned. So, one of the Goodreads raves, this is one of the biggest mysteries and thrillers for 2021. Pop Sugar, best books of the month. Amazon editor pick. Bookish says this is one of a fall and winter release to have on your radar. Book Riot raving, this is a mystery and thriller you need to know. Country Living saying this is one of the best books this season. Nerd Daily calling you an outstanding thriller book release of the year. Deep South Magazine saying this is one of the mysteries debuts and tales which must be on every reader's list. Country Living saying this is your next must read. What has it been like to see this kind of praise roll in? Is it amping up the pressure? Are you sweating, or are you like, at last I am seen?
Oh no, totally stressed, totally feeling pressure about it because it hasn't come out. And so I'm like, it's great. And I'm so honored to have all of the praise. And then I think like, but what if nobody actually buys it? So yeah, I'm very, very honored and super happy about all the praise. And that was nice of you to read it. But
has there been a review? Has there been a review where that has been your favorite so far, where you're like, wow, this person gets me?
Yeah, there have been so many. My publisher asked me to join Instagram, and I was like, oh, it might be kind of scary. And they were like, no, the book reviewers, the Bookstagrammers are so supportive and loving and kind. And that has been my experience, that they've been so lovely and wonderful getting the word out about the book. So many of them have said that the book was really meaningful to them, and that they were pleasantly surprised and that they loved it. So that was a great honor to read some of those. Yeah.
The Bookstagram community is incredible on Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram's my favorite platform because I love pictures. I think I always sort of maybe secretly dreamed of being a photographer if I wasn't a writer. Like, I love the medium of storytelling, whether that's visual and pictures, whether that's on the page as a writer. I just love telling stories and conveying things. So Instagram's my favorite. You said you just joined. Is Twitter your favorite, or are you just not into social media at all?
Oh, I'm not into it.
Across the board, it's not for you.
It's not, but I'm trying.
Okay, cool. Susan would like to know, Susan, thanks for the great question. Is the plot situation based on a real incident or a person? Yeah. So we always hear these crazy stories about people who live off the grid. I think are they called preppers or something? And here we have some preppers, Coop and Finch. Did you see something on the news that inspired you, or did you just make this up out of the clear blue?
No, it's not based on a real incident or a real person. Although I did have my friend who was an Army Ranger in the War on Terror review my sections that were written about some of the PTSD, and have him kind of tell me, was the wording right? Did it seem fair? Did it seem like a good, accurate depiction of that. So he did help me out, but it's not based on anybody I really know. The plot was sort of based on when and I've shared this before, but when I first, this first character first came to me, I had written a short story and I sent it out and it got widely rejected, but some editors put like nice comments on it and personal comments. So I was like, okay, it's not terrible. And I didn't want to let it go, but I didn't really know what to do with it. And sometime along there, I think I read that Roxane Gay had written An Untamed State based on a short story that she'd written. And I was like, oh my goodness, you can do that? I could maybe do that. And so then I started rethinking, like, what if this character had a little bit of a different history, and what if he made a few different choices? And I sort of explored from there, and then the book sort of came to me after that.
What first of all, thank you for your careful portrayal of veteran PTSD, which is a really big problem. I have a friend who works at the VA who studies it, who's working to better support our veterans. What did he say you got right, and what did he say this needs a little work?
Largely, I think he was supportive of what I had at the time, because this was pretty late. The book had already sold, and I was working with my editor, Sarah Grill, on revising it. And I said, before anything would be printed, I need to get my friend to review it for me. And so I do remember that he went through, and there was a word that wasn't quite strong enough. I don't remember what my original word was, but he was like, you need to have the word anxiety. Like, anxiety is the word that describes what it was like coming home and just feeling unsure. Maybe I'd use the word unsure, but he said that's the word you need. You need to have the word anxiety in this part where you're talking about that.
I love that, because that's a big part of it. Robert saying, this reminds me of the movie Captain. When have you seen that movie, Kimi?
No.
When you're writing it, do you picture it as a movie? And if so, who do you see in these roles?
Oh, I don't usually picture it as a movie. I think I have really mixed feelings about it becoming a movie, honestly. And I know that probably sounds crazy to a lot of people, but on one hand, of course, I would love to see it as a movie. And then on the other hand, I'm like, I don't want to let that go. Like, I'm not going to let someone else portray these people and their lives and their stories in a way that doesn't feel accurate to me. So I do feel torn about it. Although in the end, I guess in the right hands, I would love to see it become a movie.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Robert. Thanks for the question. And thank you for letting us know that resonates for you. Leslie is saying, yay, Instagram. Leslie, you and me, we love the gram, right? So everybody, Kimi is sharing that she's not entirely comfortable in social media, but she's on it anyway. So let's give her a follow. I'm popping it up in the comments right now. Here you go. So everybody give her a follow. Let's welcome her to Instagram. I, on the other hand, love Instagram. I love social media and I love Instagram. I love taking pictures with my little adorable dog from Texas. I love taking bookstagrams. So come hang out with me on Instagram as well. Leslie following up to say that, I missed it. Oh, she's saying, I have a bookstagrammer in training since last year, and it is the place to be. Yes, ma'am. Reviews are infectious. It makes the reader want to get your book. Of course, being in here with Sarah is important too. Thank you so much, Leslie. That's so lovely. And I love that you are a bookstagrammer in training as well. Leslie has great pictures, so everyone give her a shout out as well. Kimi, Robert following up to say that the movie Captain is fantastic. Okay, well now I got to go watch that and see if it does indeed remind me of these silent woods. So one thing I noticed, I always read the acknowledgments. Who else reads the acknowledgments? Do you guys just skip through them, or do you hone in? Sometimes I read them first. I like to know, have that sort of lens to read the book through. So I am a compulsive acknowledgments reader. I noticed in your acknowledgments, Kimi, that you talked about prayer as a part of your writing process. You spent a lot of time, you said, praying for this book, walking in the woods, and letting divine inspiration come. Asking for it and receiving it. Walk us through that faith-led process. Did you just go out and say, ideas, I'm open? Or did you say, please help me write? Walk us through this prayer-led process of yours.
Well, first of all, I also love acknowledgments and often read them before reading the book, or as I've started, early on in reading the book. I love to read them too. They're just always really interesting to see. I feel like you get a good insight into who the author is with the acknowledgments. So I always love to read those too. Yeah. So with this book, I pray while I walk, and I think while I walk. We live in the woods, and so I would think a lot about things that I wanted to include in the book, and I would see inspiration for places, a rock, or the way the lichen feels on the rock, or that type of thing as I'm in the woods. And I wanted to write a book that was devastating and thrilling, and also like uplifting. I didn't want to write a book that I don't like those types of books that I read and then I just feel kind of depressed for like 4 or 5 days after. And so I wanted readers to feel the depths of despair, but also sort of the high. And so I sort of just prayed my way through, like, how can I do that? And how can I write a book that is a page turner, but is ultimately not devastating completely. So I think that's more how my prayer looked. And I don't get like lightning strikes or anything, but I just wanted to make it a prayerful endeavor. I guess I wanted to feel like I could be at peace with what ended up on the page.
I love that. So tell us, Kathy's saying she loves hearing a writer talk about this faith in writing. Yes, Kathy, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for that comment. Kimi, so once you had the idea for the book, and then you would walk prayerfully and pray to create a story that both gave people, as you said, desperation and hope, the highest highs, and because I know I don't like to walk away from a book depressed either. So do you feel, as you were writing it, that you were led? Do you feel walk us through what that felt like for you?
I think I did. I think sometimes I would feel like I don't know how I'm going to sort this out, but it was sort of I did have a sense of faith, like this is a book I'm meant to write, and it will get written, just feeling like I think at the time in the middle of writing this, I have a number of good friends who write like Christian theology books and help books. And I was like, man, I write like thrillers, and how is that, like making anyone's life any better? Like my friends, the friends I'm thinking of are Erica Young Wrights and Heather Holloman and Gregory Coles. And so they're writing these books that are, like enlightening people and supporting people and guiding people. And I write fiction and I spend my time with made up people. And so I was really wrestling with, like, is this what I'm supposed to do with my life? Like this, I write books and I want to like inspire people and make their lives a little bit better in some way. And so, but then I really just had the sense, no, this is what you're meant to do. And so I did pray through writing it, because I did have this like peace about it that I didn't have before, where I was, feeling like, no, you're meant to do this, and you can do it.
How long did it take you to do it? Start from soup to nuts.
Yeah, I think it took me, I've tried to figure this out before. I think about, 2 years. 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 2 Maybe a year and a half to write it to where we sent it out on submission, and then, I spent, a few months going back and forth with my editor to revise it, I think.
Now,
Yeah.
when you say going back and forth, did they ask you to change something that you said, I don't want to change that? Or did you say, oh, great idea, let me change that? And without any spoilers, what were they?
Yeah, my experience, I don't know how everyone's experience with it, with their editor has been, but my experience with Sarah Grill was amazing. I see even that I feel like, well, I landed with the right editor for this book, and so she was so wonderful. And one thing that she said early on was, let's see what we can do to amp up the tension. Tension is actually not very natural for me. I have to work at tension and plot. I tend to get like into the lyrical descriptions and the characters, and so she said, let's see what we can do to amp it up. And so sometimes she would give me ideas, or I would there was definitely one time when I was walking, and I came home and emailed her, and I was like, what if Finch does this? And she wrote back and said, sounds perfect, let's do it. So she was really, really supportive, and there really was I don't think anything that she wanted me to add or take away that I felt like, no, I really disagree with that. I think we really worked really well together.
Oh, I love that. I love that. One of our listeners, one of our watchers is tuning in saying, Kimi, you sound very nice and very thoughtful. Indeed, I totally agree. Kimi, another book
Thank
that
you.
you have written was a nonfiction about your Japanese American grandparents' internment, excuse me, during World War II. That must have been challenging and painful to write. Tell us about the process of being called to that.
Yeah. So in that book, I had grown up with knowing that my parents had been interned, and it was always sort of this like thing that we didn't want to talk about. My grandparents left the camps, not deciding never to speak Japanese after that, and so it always felt like this thing that my family was ashamed of, and but I wanted to know more. And so when I was around, I think like 19 or 20, I started to like push for answers. And so I called up my grandmother in Florida, and I didn't know her that well because we lived in Pennsylvania and she lived in Florida. And I said, can I come and visit you? And can I ask you questions? And she answered lots of questions for me. And I started taking out lots of books. This led into my time in graduate school. So I got lots of books and started reading and learning more and more about the experience of everybody who went through that. There were 110,000 Japanese Americans who were rounded up and sent to camps, and but also my family specific story.
I love that. Thank you for sharing it, because I think there's a large must have conversation being held right now about the preservation and acknowledgement of the more painful parts of history,
Yeah.
whether that is the Nazi death camps or work camps in Europe, whether that is the Japanese American internment camps in the US, the Holocaust at all. Critical race theory, we're having conversations about the desire to bury things that are painful, ugly, and hurt, or whether, and the importance, I believe, in preserving those and talking about them. Yes, they are painful. Yes, they are ugly. Yes, they are horrible. But if we don't talk about them, they could get lost or buried in the annals of history. So thank you for doing that courageous and I'm sure very painful work to excavate that story from your grandmother, and for your family's story and family's history to be told, and for so many Japanese Americans history to be told. Thank you for that. Kathy saying, keep up your writing, Kimi. Some of us need an escape from daily life. Books that do that for us and that rest fuels us forward. Oh, Kathy, I love that. I love that. And I totally agree with every part of it. The escape from daily life, especially when daily life is especially hard as it may be right now, as it is during a pandemic, and giving us that escape, even that experience, that view into others' worlds, and that rest. I like how you said fuels us forward. Kimi, any thoughts on that?
Well, Kathy, it's really interesting that you talk about the escape that books give us. And we were just talking about my first book, Silver Like Dust, because in that book, I do write about how for my grandmother, when there was a library at the Heart Mountain internment camp, and books helped my grandmother get through that experience. Like she could escape and read a book and get immersed and pulled into something different from where she was. And she acknowledged at the time, like the books were the thing that got her through. So it's really cool that you kind of feel the same way, Kathy.
Wow, Kathy, thank you for the great comment. And Kimi, thank you for sharing that. That's absolutely that's amazing to know that that was such a powerful tool for your grandmother. These Silent Woods, I loved when Publishers Weekly called this an evocative novel of suspense. Evocative, I love that word because you're writing of the woods. It's. I think this book felt to me as both a love song, an ode to father-daughter relationships, an ode to nature. The way that you talk about the spirituality of being in nature, the way that you talk about the reverence for trees, the reverence for moss, for light. Is it lichen or lichen? Lichen, thank you. For animals, for survival, for snow, for water, for rivers, for fishing. I mean, it's a love song to the woods. And when you were describing your practice of being prayerful in the woods, it made sense to me that those things are intertwined. So I loved that Publishers Weekly honed in on that. It's hard to write about the woods and capture the magic of it for people who don't experience that. How did you do that?
Oh, well, I'm honored that you think I did capture the magic of the woods. Because of course it feels right to me, but you never know if it's going to resonate with a reader who's not there in your head experiencing it. But I did, I really wanted to capture that magic of the woods, the sense that it is a place of safety, but also danger and beauty, but also death and destruction. The woods can be brutal. The nature, we like to think of nature as like, oh, everything is beautiful and in balance, but it's not always like that. And so I wanted to try to capture that, balance that exists and the give and take in the woods.
And you do that because the book starts off with a rather violent scene that immediately sets it up that this is not going to be a Disney book where where Snow White is and the little birdie's coming. Although a little bird does come and perch on one mysterious character, the crow flying around the mysterious neighbor Scotland. But there is as you said, a survival. There's a primal for some to eat, others must perish in the animal kingdom. And I thought you set that really well. Also, Shelf Awareness said your writing is lyrical, and you command a deep understanding of your characters, which propels the story forward. Do you feel that the characters propel the story forward, and how did you go about doing that?
I do feel like the characters propel the book forward. I knew that with such a tight cast, there are not very many characters in this book. And I knew that much of the tension resides on, the reader really, really wanting Cooper and Finch to survive. And because if the reader doesn't care about Cooper and Finch, then, they're not going to care if they make it and if they can sustain their life. So I knew that we had to read this book and see the beauty of their relationship and to love each of them individually and to also love the world that Cooper has attempted to build for them.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, last question, Kimi. What was your favorite scene to write? And what is your favorite scene to read if it is different?
My favorite scene to write in the book. I don't remember what my favorite scene to write was. I I think that opening scene was important for me to write. There's a scene where Cooper and Finch are in the woods. They go out to hunt, and so they climb up in a sycamore tree and hunt. I think that scene, I remember writing that and enjoying, trying to write that. There is also a scene in Walmart that I kind of remember sort of having to envision what would it be like to go into Walmart after not being there for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, Sarah, a couple months ago, I went back into Walmart after not being there for so long. I just
were Cooper basically
for a long time, I did pickups and had stuff shipped to my house for a long time and then going back. But so I never thought I'd be living that myself. But I did at the time. I was like, what would it be like to go to a store after you haven't been there for a decade or a really long time?
Exactly. Imagine yourself. That's also one of my favorite scenes. He's trying to check out quickly and pay cash because of course he can't, use a credit card when you're in hiding. But and the ladies scanning each other. I mean, you can just hear beep beep, and you're sweating while you're reading because you're thinking, scan faster, lady. I gotta get out of here, back to my truck and back to the woods before I'm seen. Oh my God, I loved that scene. Also, I have not been in a Walmart in a while, and it's intense in there with all the electronics, which Cooper of course experiences. Y'all, get your hands on this book. Did I mention that my partner in crime has signed books? Yes, ma'am. We have signed books. So you can get your autographed copy of These Silent Woods out tomorrow. I'm popping the link into the comments right now. There it is. So log on, grab it, support a woman-owned independent bookstore and get your copy. If you love the woods, if you love father-daughter stories, if you love survivalist stories, this is the book for you. Grab your copy now, get a signed copy or give it. It's crazy that it's already November. We have to start thinking about gifting season. It's holiday season. Grab it now for the book lover in your life. Kimi Cunningham-Grant, thank you so much for joining us here today on Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Congratulations on These Silent Woods. And we will see you when you come back next time with your next book.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. It was an honor to be here.
Thank you. All right, y'all. I will see you tonight at 7 and 8 Eastern, 6 and 7 Central. And Kathy is saying this is a gift to herself. Kathy, amen. This is the time to treat yourself. Is it wrong that I buy myself gifts? No, we have to celebrate ourselves. You deserve it. So grab this copy of your book, a signed copy. I just love having my book signed. It's so special. So grab your copy. The link is right there, 2 signed copies, and they will get it out to you as soon as this book drops tomorrow. All right, you all, I will see you tonight. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you tonight. Thanks, all.
Thanks.